York's nearly 100,000 people rallied to save an evil pit bull after the brute viciously mauls a 4-year-old little boy nearly to death.
5-year-old Mickey, a pit bull terrier, went right for the 4-year-old child's face. Witnesses say 4-year-old Kevin Vincente went to grab one of the dog's bones.
He's still suffering whenever they clean his face, his eye, when they remove that patch, he screams.
Deeper structures in the right side of his face were extensively damaged, ranging around the eye, to the upper cheekbone, the upper jawbone, the lower jawbone. I think it's horrible that that happened to him. I think he's a victim here. I think Mickey is a victim here.
They keep trying to make excuses, to say that it was Kevin's fault or the babysitter's fault, everything but not the dog.
I feel he's been kept outside. I feel that he hasn't been well taken care of. And to me, that constitutes abuse.
Little Kevin, just 4 years old, no longer this smiling little boy, now in the hospital with horrific injuries. His skin ripped from his face, his eye socket, cheekbone, jaw smashed. Hours of surgery undergone so far, years more to go. All because of this pit bull. There he is. The dog attacking the 4-year-old after the child came into its yard and tried to take its bone. So here's a question. Who are people raising money for? Who are people trying to help here? Some have rushed to help Kevin, the little boy, raising $7,000 so far for his recovery. But apparently even more people rallying around the dog. A Save Mickey page on Facebook, 49,000 likes, and more than 50,000 people have signed an online petition to save the dog's life. And Mickey even has an attorney now dedicated to fighting for him. Richard Rosenthal, General Counsel for the Alexis Project, with me. Richard, you're an attorney, but you hired an attorney to represent Mickey here. First question, why?
Well, first of all, that's not correct. We didn't hire an attorney. The law firm is working with the Alexis Project pro bono.
Gotcha. Working pro bono. Okay, so you found him an attorney. So same question, though. Why?
Because killing Mickey is not going to help the boy at all. The best comment on this issue was by the doctor right after it happened, where he said the dog was doing what dogs do. Unfortunately, the child was doing what children do. And the addendum to that is, unfortunately, the babysitter was not doing what responsible adults are supposed to be doing. This is not the dog's fault as much as it's the breakdown by the babysitter in taking care of her responsibilities.
Okay, Richard, what do you think should happen to the dog? The owners have given up the dog, correct?
That is correct. The dog, if we're able to win and the dog is not put down, he will be turned over to the Alexis Project, at which point he will be evaluated by trainers. He will get whatever training is necessary, and then a determination will be made whether he should probably be rehomed or sent to a sanctuary, depending on the result of the trainer's evaluation.
Okay, so when you say rehome, that means another family would adopt Mickey?
I don't know that I would suggest necessarily a family. Obviously, I don't believe that a dog such as Mickey would be in a good place being put with a family with young children. That's not to say that an experienced pit bull owner with appropriate training for the dog couldn't very easily take care of him with no further problems.
All right, Richard, you obviously know a lot more about dogs and training dogs and everything like that. Is there a history of dogs that have reacted in the manner that Mickey has reacted, that have been able to be retrained, have been able to...
Absolutely.
Well, explain that to us, because I haven't heard that side of the story yet.
First of all, let's start with what Mickey did. There have been, first of all, the babysitter and the person who gave the interview have given 5 different versions, but it all comes down basically to the dog was sitting there with his bone, and a 4-year-old child came and went to take the dog's bone. According to the first story, he was chewing on the bone at the time when everyone came down about the fact that what type of an idiot allows a 4-year-old to go take a bone out of the mouth of a dog, all of a sudden that story changed 3 or 4 other times. But to take a bone from a dog that's chewing on the bone, to expect that the dog is going to react is not unreasonable.
Go ahead, Ebony.
Yeah, I have to say, my mother owns 2 pit bulls, Vinny, so this is not about criminalizing the breed of pit bull. But this is about a very particular instance of this dog, and by Richard's own admission, still poses a risk of harm. There's a reason why. They said dogs do what dogs do. And if this dog is posing this type of unreasonable risk of harm to young children or others out there, he has to be put down. It's not about punishing this dog. It's not about punishing Mickey.
It's a safety issue is what you're talking about.
It's about prevention.
A safety issue. Lonnie Coombs, go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Look, we're sitting here talking about this dog. This is not a referendum on pit bulls. It is a referendum on what happened in this case. And as Richard says, well, the child did what the child did, and kind of blaming the child for trying to take the dog or the babysitter. Look, that's normal behavior for a 4-year-old child to be curious, to go around and be looking at things and touching things. And then the dog reacts, and hey, that's what dogs do. Dogs do not just go out and maul children almost to death, cracking their eye socket, cracking their jawbone and their cheekbone. To say that, well, that's just what dogs do and that's okay, that's not okay. This dog should never, ever be around children or people in general. Again, it's just not safe. And it's not like we're locking up the dog because, you know, we're giving a sentence on the dog. It's a dog. This is not a criminal justice system where we're going to punish the dog. We have to make this dog safe in society. You can't do that. So we have to do what has to be done. It's a safety issue. It's not a punishment.
Go ahead, Judge.
Let me take this. And I am a mother, and I tell you, my heart bleeds for this child. But I will also tell you that there is a responsibility for the caretaker on the situation to have been more vigilant, and that this was not necessarily a situation that this dog was predisposed to mauling this child, but the child got the bone. And I'm not so sure whether it was a pit bull or a Cocker Spaniel, a dog would have reacted. And so I really question whether this dog ought to be put to death under these circumstances. I am not unsympathetic to this mother and this child and the suffering. But under these circumstances, I do think there's a responsibility that this dog had a bone and this child got the bone. What was the caretaker doing in this situation? And why was the child so near the dog to begin with? I mean, I think that's a critical question.
Richard, let me ask you, Richard, how can you ensure, or how can anyone ensure, that the dog doesn't do this again?
How can you ensure with any dog? As the woman said, and she's right, any dog, if you reach into their mouth and take a bone out of it, you stand the risk of him biting. Normally, in this situation, if it's an adult doing it standing up, when they bite, their mouth will reach either the hand or possibly get the leg. Unfortunately, this was a 4-year-old child who was much shorter, and when he reached forward to grab his bone, got the face.
But respectfully, Richard, this is not just a bite, though, Richard, right? This is a vicious, egregious attack.
Can I finish?
Sure.
Fine. To the extent, you know, this was not a dog that was living in the house with the child. This was a next-door neighbor, and the babysitter simply didn't do what she was supposed to do, which is keep the baby out of the next-door neighbor's yard where the dog was. You know, can you guarantee that a dog will never bite? You can't guarantee that any dog will not bite under those circumstances. What we can do is, A, put the dog with a responsible owner who understands the risks, and B, will make sure that the dog is not left in situations where young children can come in contact with the dog while the dog is eating bone.
All right, Richard Rosendahl, we appreciate it. We're getting a little short on time here, but March 25th is the date that a final ruling will be made on whether or not Mickey the dog lives or dies. And, of course, we're going to stay on top of this story, all the developments, and want to know what you think, # on the case.